Yes, my people. Omo, the ambassador of African Union, this woman don't come outside fearlessly tell UK, that is Britain, America, and France, say time don't reach for them to stop every exploitation what they do for Africa. Pack their load, go. Listen to the way the woman they talk. She don't narrate how these people take invade Africa. Right back in short, she even talk how they hold the meeting for Berlin. Every down thing where you need to know about this history. Watch and listen to this woman. Watch the video, make sure. I hope say these are our leaders will never still understand the game. Go feel understand. Watch the video, Michelle. First.
You today.
Thank you for having me.
We'll talk about Africa. When you look at Africa today, what do you see?
I see an amazing continent. A continent that is endowed with everything and anything the world could ever need. I see a continent that is full of hope, a continent that has some of the most incredible, resilient people I've ever met. When you really honestly look at what Africa and these people have been through, most other ethnic groups would be extinct by now. But we are resilient. We are human beings who are just so committed to survive against all odds. But nonetheless, we are waking up. We're also a continent that's been sleeping. Let me say, we were put to sleep. We were awake, and then we were put to sleep. Now it's time that we wake up. Back to our greatness again.
What is the damage that has been sustained because of colonial rule and apartheid?
Let's go back to, I guess, when you look at colonialism and when it was finally just organized in a way that we would then have the Africa that we have today. For Africa, I'll take it back to the Berlin Conference. That was held from November of 1884 to February of 1885. As you know, most people don't realize that the European nations were just haphazardly going into Africa and just stealing from the local people, and pretty soon they started stealing. The British would steal from the French, and the French would steal from the Spaniards, and pretty soon they were fighting each other. So the then Chancellor of Germany, Bismarck, in his efforts to prevent the European war on the African soil, he reached out to his sidekick, King Leopold of Belgium. And at that time, as you know, Belgium, King Leopold was wreaking havoc in the Congo. People are not aware that over 75% of the Congolese population was killed by Leopold. He actually claimed Congo was his own personal country. He owned it individually, not as Belgium. So you call Leopold and say, hey, we got a problem here. Can we come together and see if we can organize the manner in which we're going to loot from these people? So that's really how Berlin Conference was called together. So they brought all the countries that were making this mad rush into Africa so they could organize how they were looting the continent. So really, the Berlin Conference was not called for in order to make Africa better, but rather to see to it that they organize themselves so they can effectively exploit the Africans and also make sure that the continent and its people are forever defeated and dominated.
Does the looting go on today?
Oh, yes. The looting continues, but it has put on different clothes. Now, there's something else they did during the Berlin Conference. Because remember, after they had traveled around the continent, found some of the most powerful kingdoms with well-established educational and religious systems. I mean, the African people are just resilient. When you get to know the Africans, you understand the African spirit. And they knew that if they continued the same way they were going, they would never defeat the Africans. So they set in place a system of colonization and making the Africans believe that everything that was African was bad and everything that was European, particularly British and English, was better. So the seed of divide and conquer was also sown during the Berlin Conference. And they knew, just give it a generation or less, these people, not only are they going to be so divided, because they chopped us up into these small economies that really could never survive on their own. You take a country like Equatorial Guinea, Central African Republic, Malawi, Rwanda, Burundi, they're economies that even if they struggle and begin to do better on their own, if the master decides you're becoming too smart, they're very easy to destabilize.
Wow.
And that's exactly what has been going on in our Africa. So Berlin Conference, people don't realize it was designed to see to it that the Africans are forever defeated. So for those who turn around and say, but Ambassador, don't talk about the Berlin Conference, it was a long time ago. And I'll say, as long as we have a country called Malawi, a country called Zimbabwe, a country called Central African Republic, all the African countries really for that matter, Berlin Conference is alive and well. Because that which they set out to do 123, 24 years ago, it's still in place. Nothing has changed. So how can they say Berlin Conference is a thing of history, don't talk about it? No, what's really sad and what should disgust the world is to say this policy was put in place 123 years ago and it is still in place and nothing has changed. But what's really worse is when you look at what France did to the Francophone countries in 1958, when they were living, quote unquote, leaving the continent. They gave the Francophone countries two choices. You can be independent with some affiliations to France, or you can be independent with no affiliations to France. Well, Guinea and Mali said, we are done with you, France, goodbye, leave us alone. That's how we had the first ever known union of any African states. They went into those two countries, took everything that they thought they had brought to them. History tells us they even took the last cup, teaspoon, chair, and proceeded to pour concrete into the sewage pipes, completely devastating the two economies, simply because they refused to be affiliated to France. But what they, and also the Sékou Touré, then president of Guinea at that time, he looked at the pact that France was making the Francophone countries sign. It was called the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. He refused to sign it.
How many countries in Africa?
Now we are sitting at 14 Francophone countries that are still held on to this pact.
So in the 50-some countries in Africa altogether, were they all colonized?
Yes.
By different
countries?
Different countries.
The majority of the countries went to France,
yes,
Britain. We have Portuguese, we have Spanish, and those are the main ones.
You used the word looting before.
Yes.
The looting continues to this day?
To this day, it continues, but it has a different name.
So tell me what the name is.
Well, the exploitation of Africa continues. Again, let me go back to the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, which is the biggest one. The Francophone countries were told because we brought you the idea that you can sit at a table and eat with a fork and knife, we brought you tea, we built some roads and told you about going to school, we're going to call that colonial debt. So there's a fee for that and you need to pay for it. They were also told that you must speak French as your official language, and it must be your language of instruction in schools, and we will be the one to design your educational system. And then also, your money, 85% of your bank reserves, you will keep them, you will deposit them with the French bank, and we will take that money and invest it in the French stock market, but we don't have to tell you what the returns are on your money. So collectively, all the Francophone countries that signed that pact, their funds, the 85% of their bank reserves are invested
50 countries,
under French.
A little bit more, 50 countries?
55.
55. Population of Africa?
1.27 billion.
1.27 billion people. Give me a couple of success stories.
Success stories, we are having increased rates of literacy. We have many African countries that are increasing their GDPs. 6 of the top 10 fastest growing economies in the world are in Africa. So there's a lot of good news coming out of Africa. But again, because of this same strategy of branding Africa as a diseased and dying continent where people are constantly at war with each other, People are not seeing the good news out of Africa.
So what are the myths? What are the myths about Africa? Just name 3 things that we should get in our minds that when Africa is in the conversation or Africa is in the news, that we should be thinking about. 3 myths.
1, Africa is the richest continent on earth by far.
Hello?
Yes, no continent comes even close. 1, 2, we are all Africans because life began in Africa. Life as we know it, I can tell you, my brother, right now, you do your DNA testing, I can tell you, a good 50% of you is African. We are all Africans. And thirdly,
Proud to be.
Thank you. And then thirdly, I want everybody to know about the wonderful news coming out of Africa. Remember we were talking about the Berlin Conference, how we were designed to fail through these little countries we were divided up? Well, guess what? Game is over. April this year, we saw our leaders come together and signing the African Continental Free Trade Agreement.
Yes.
Yes, so we have 50 countries that have already signed, and we're going through the process of ratifications. We only need 22 of the 50 to ratify. Already we have 10 ratifications deposited with the African Union.
So free trade agreement in Africa.
In Africa.
For African countries.
We're going to negotiate as one bloc. We have made a commitment as Africans that the only way we can survive, which is what our Pan-African fathers wanted, to speak with one voice, one continent, one voice. And we're finally getting there. We're finally beginning to bury Big Belly.
You know, last week I said Nigeria and ECOWAS is behaving as if Niger Republic need their help. But unfortunately, they need help from Niger Republic. I said it last week. Said it like twice. The gospel truth is that those people, there is something they've seen that Nigeria have not seen, that other West African countries have not seen. I'm not saying every West African country should embark on a coup and stuff, no. What I'm saying is that the leaders of the West African countries should realize the true agenda of the West and America in Africa. Probably before late night, maybe late night or late middle of the night, I'll be posting a video concerning the deal, the arrangement Russia have and the kind of agenda Russia have towards Africa. You will be able to understand, or you'll be able to reconcile the two information. Whether you like it or not, what this woman said here just revealed every secret, every down thing that anybody need to know. And this is exactly what everybody have been warning against. But it's just quite unfortunate, say, everybody ignore. Especially the remaining West African countries never still get sense. And unfortunately, and the big guys like Nigeria, Ghana, the big ones, the big fish, now them never get sense. The ones that don't get sense are the smaller ones. If any the way Nigeria wake up, it will take the whole world. It will take the whole world years to be able to remain the same again. What do you do? I am Sharon.